Good morning, everyone. This is me, Mustafa. The film I'll be analyzing today or presenting about today is The Godfather Part 1, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, written by both Mario Puzo, who's the writer of the novel on which the film is based on, and Francis Ford Coppola, who's the director. Why I chose this film is because it's one of my favorite films. It's also one of the best films of all time, if not the best film of all time. It's both critically acclaimed and a fan favorite. It showed mobsters or mafia as they were never portrayed before, more accurately than ever. It established the path for future films and future filmmakers to explore this world of the mafia or the Cosa Nostra. The scene I'll be analyzing is the Sollozzo killing scene. Why this specific scene? It's because it's the turning point where the character arc of the lead, Michael Corleone, reaches full circle. He starts off being a very moral, very correct, very straightforward kind of person who refuses to involve himself in his family's criminal acts. He chooses a more legal, more moral path. We get to talk about Francis Ford Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola is someone who is considered to be one of the best filmmakers of all time. He started his storytelling journey as a kid who had polio and wanted to entertain himself. So he designed puppet shows for himself to keep himself entertained. He later found himself making 8 millimeter movies before he finally joined a foster school to study drama. He later pursued a Master of Fine Arts degree in UCLA. He started off his filmmaking career with a horror film called Dementia 13, which wasn't that successful, but he later found success in a film called Finian's Rainbow, which was a musical released in 1968, but it was the 70s, which saw the breakthrough of Francis as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, with a bunch of classics during just the 70s. Those classics being, we're starting with The Godfather Part 1, followed by The Conversation in 1974, capping it off with films like Dracula, and two masterpieces such as Apocalypse Now and The Godfather Part 2, both in 1979, in a great feat. He is the holder or the winner of two Oscars. He is widely critically acclaimed for his involvement in both screenplay and directing. He's someone who does great jobs when it comes to casting. Biggest evidence of such thing would be him sticking by Al Pacino for to be his main protagonist in the form of Michael Corleone in the Godfather series.
Nobody else wanted me. Paramount didn't want me or Brando. And it was really, and the struggle was greatly his. He had a struggle for me. I finally was saying to him, Francis, it's fine. I'll survive. I'll do other stuff. He really wanted me. Ever since then, I thought, that's really when a director is interested in you for a part, that means something. Yeah. And so when I
that's for Francis. Something which I found very interesting, which is the fact that the whole Godfather jaw thing was something that Brando created or improvised when he was first not auditioning, but when he was first pitching his view on the character. Let's jump into the scene analysis. So here is the establishing shot where we can visibly see the diner's window. I think here we see, in terms of lighting, we have like a really dim setting, only lit with a very bright red color, which somehow I think conveys violence or death. It's more or less foreshadowing of what is about to happen. We then jump into a long shot where where we get familiar with the place. We see the three characters involved in the scene: Mikowski, Sollozzo, and Michael Corleone sitting at the table. I think again the very hot kind of reddish orange lighting at the end of the restaurant and at the side of the bar, they serve to establish a sort of tension or serve as a foreshadowing of bloodiness or violence which is about to happen. We then jump into a medium shot of Sollozzo as he looks anxiously and tensely into the eyes of Michael Corleone. It's important to note that Sollozzo in this case is the enemy. He tried to kill Vito Corleone, who's Michael's father, to try and assume power. We then cut onto Michael Corleone's face, which both shows signs of being worried and or need for vengeance. He has these stern looks on him, which will later shift into looks of tension and worry, as we'll see. This is Captain Mikowski. He's the person behind the bruise on Michael's face, and he's a dirty cop who works or is paid by Sollozzo to tame the Corleone family. This is the first close up in this scene. This goes to show the tension and the emotions on Michael's face as we see the hot kind of orange red background behind him, which serves to show that he has thoughts of violence and blood on his mind when he's thinking or looking at Sollozzo. When I read or I did research about this specific scene, I found that Murch, the famous Walter Murch, the editor, spoke about the significance of this bottle pop sound, which is the only sound prominent in this part of the scene. It serves to increase the tension as we already see both characters very anxious and very tense. This bottle pop goes to mimic the bullet sound. It kind of um, intensifies the tension and gives you a hint of what's about to happen. Again, a close up on Michael's face. This is a very important thing when it comes to this scene. The stage is set for Al Pacino to show his prominent or his wide skill set when it comes to acting, especially how he uses his facial expressions, which speak miles of what's going on his mind, not knowing whether he would be capable of clipping or killing those two characters going against his morals. Again, we see the color red, this time only darker in the form of wine, which I think is a recurrent theme or color in order to convey things such as death and violence. Shoulder shot, we get to see both characters speaking in Italian without subtitles, something which also Walter Murch commented on, saying that it was brilliant by Francis Ford Coppola, as it gave the audience a chance to concentrate on their body language and on their facial expressions, try and infer from the tone of their voices what they really were saying, or what Walter Murch called, or what Francis Ford Coppola meant in this scene. They had said or noted that the editing is kind of rhythmic or intentionally rhythmic in order to establish some sort of tension while still having some sort of order when it came to the back and forth cuts from both Michael's close up and Sollozzo's close up, as Sollozzo would take longer as he would take longer to speak, while Michael mainly relied on his facial expressions because of his visibly weak Italian. Tension reaches its maximum when Michael asks to go to the toilet, interrupting the truce which they were trying to reach. We see once Michael asks to go to the toilet, we see looks of being worried and being tense and being very anxious about what's going to happen from Sollozzo. He kind of flinches. As we can see, he flinches in fear of what Michael might do. He intercepts him. He intercepts him on his way to the toilet. We see a close up of his hands between Michael's thighs, and then we go back to a medium long shot, establishing three characters as Michael heads his way to the toilet. Right here, we see a frame within a frame in this specific scene. As we focus on Al Pacino's expressions. In a what you'd call a close up, he looks for the gun, which is stashed in the toilet, in order to get it to kill the two other characters. The jump or the cut back and forth, cutaways back and forth between both parts of the restaurant, both the medium shot or the medium shot between Sollozzo and Mikowski, and the close up on Michael's face. We go on in the sequence back and forth. This was done in order to build tension and make the audience feel the tension that Michael felt as he was getting late and unable to find the gun. As the fear also increased on both Mikowski and Sollozzo's minds and faces. At this point, we didn't yet know Michael had it in him to actually kill those two characters. In a shot or a frame within a frame, as the door serves as another frame in front of the lens. This close up um, uh, comes to show us that Michael is suffering from final thoughts of hesitation and uncertainty of whether he can pull this off or not, whether he could go against his morals and against his what he thought was his true personality in order to execute vengeance for his family. He then fixes his hair or strokes it, mimicking his father, and who had done such a gesture more than one time throughout the film. I think it's important to note that this serves as a foreshadowing or an indication that his transformation or his character arc has come full circle from the war hero into the only and the upcoming heir to his father's throne. We come into a an over-the-shoulder shot of both Mikowski and Sollozzo to get the point of view of Michael on them in a medium shot as they are again backgrounded with the color of hot red, which I think, as I've already mentioned, um, bears meaning or connotation that they're about to die or violence is about to happen. Here we see a medium shot of Al Pacino's face as the camera comes closer and closer into his face as he shows signs of being very hesitant, confused, and afraid. The camera goes into the picture more and more, tracking his face or dollying into his face to signify what seems as a deeper look into his mind. He starts breaking the 180 rule, looking left and right. He starts looking left and right, up and down all over the place, which shows the tension and goes on to build the tension. Something that I forgot mentioning in this specific point of the scene is the voice of the subway train, which goes to, if you can view this, which goes to make things look as if they're taking forever. It overshadows and submerges the whole action. You feel like it's taking forever. Again, with the recurrent subway train sound, which kind of builds the tension and lets you know that something is about to happen. After a long moment of confusion, Al Pacino stands up, is overshadowed by Michael's body, of Sollozzo's face as Michael shoots him in the head. We then see a close up of Mikowski's face in awe of what Michael just did as his fork hovers. We cut back to Michael's face in a fast close-up. This very rapid editing goes to convey both tension and action or violence as he again as we again move into a medium shot as Michael shoots Mikowski in the throat and again in the face in a close-up of him. The people in the diner are in awe, just as he is in awe of what he just did, something he never thought would come out of him. In the long shot, we see him walking out, dropping the gun, and fleeing the scene. It's very important to note that there was no use of music, any scene, or any action scene in this film, because as Walter Murch said, Francis Coppola thinks of music as something to conclude a surge of emotions. It shouldn't be there to actually create emotion. And that's why the music starts right after the scene ends. We end the scene with, again, the very warm orange red, yani orangish red kind of lighting at the back end of the scene with blood stains all over the table, and again the red sign in the top right corner of the screen. The scene ends with a very bloody scene of Sollozzo and Mikowski drained in their blood with the table covered in blood stains.